What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we just got the very first college football playoff rankings of the 2020 season, and I think we learned a lot in these rankings. My biggest takeaway was that it was really, the big question was how would they compare the teams that played different amounts of games? So the committee, in my opinion, looked at it and didn't say, well, how many quality wins have you had? Instead, they looked at how have you played in the games that you have played. So they did not penalize teams that have not played as many games. In fact, they maybe rewarded those teams, especially in the Big Ten. I was really surprised at how high they ranked some of these Big Ten teams. But overall, I don't think I was too surprised by everything. The Big Ten is probably what I got wrong the most. If you watch my projection video on Monday, I projected what the first rankings would look like. And outside of the Big Ten teams, I think I did actually a really good job. And I think I predicted a lot of things that you maybe didn't see anywhere else, and it turned out to be true. So other than that, again, I'm pretty happy with my rankings. Of course, what I said in that video, it was impossible to get these correct. It was impossible to know what the committee was going to do because it's just such a different year. So let's go through it. I'm going to go through the teams and kind of look at why maybe they ranked teams where they did. And I'll tell you where I had the teams, where I was projecting the teams to go. So 21 through 25 here. Tulsa is barely ranked. They had them at number 25. I thought they would be a little bit higher. They're 5-1. I think they really looked at probably their close games, their close wins, and penalized them just a little bit for that. I don't know. So it's interesting. Also, I think they put the Big Ten teams pretty high. The group of 5 teams they put kind of low. I was surprised. No Louisiana. I mean, that's a big surprise. Unless I missed something. Last I checked, Louisiana has only lost one football game, and they beat Iowa State, a team that they have ranked. So that's one that I'm definitely scratching my head over. I'm not sure why Louisiana did not make it into these rankings. And I'm going to be looking up schedules as I go through this and evaluating. Yeah, Louisiana 7-1. They have that one loss that came to Coastal Carolina, who is ranked. They have a win over a pretty good UAB team, pretty good Arkansas State team, a decent Georgia Southern team, and that win over Iowa State 31-14. So I don't understand where was Louisiana here. That makes no sense to me. So that was a surprise that we did not see Louisiana here in these rankings, and Tulsa all the way down number 25. So it just shows you that they don't really respect these group of 5 teams. And besides Cincinnati, they did respect Cincinnati. And maybe it's how you win. Tulsa wins these close games. Cincinnati's been blowing people out. I think they got a lot of credit for that. All right, Iowa was a big surprise at number 24. I did not expect this team to be ranked. Honestly, I didn't even consider them. I didn't even really look into Iowa because they had 2 losses. They've only played 5 games. And I knew they lost to Purdue. But all of a sudden, that Northwestern loss, a 1-point loss, and also the Purdue loss was only a 4-point loss. Those, the Purdue loss is not great, but that loss to Northwestern looks pretty good. And then if you look at the way that they've won the games they've won, Michigan State, Minnesota, and Penn State, they've blown teams out. So, yeah, you don't just look at the record, the 3-2 record. You look at how the team has played in those 5 games. And I actually would say, yeah, they've been impressive. So I understand now why the committee ranked Iowa. It surprised me again because I just wasn't expecting it. I didn't really consider Iowa. But it does make sense. Now, here's one that does not make sense to me. That's Oklahoma State at number 23. This team is 5-2, and it makes 0 sense if you look at where some of the other teams are ranked, like Iowa State and Texas. Oklahoma State beat Iowa State head-to-head. Oklahoma State has no bad losses. When you look at their schedule, they lost to Oklahoma and they lost to Texas, 2 top 25 teams. Texas was in overtime, a game where they really looked like the better team, and they just kind of let it slip away. Now, I know Oklahoma blew them out, and maybe that's why they fell so much, because they weren't competitive against Oklahoma. Other than that, though, they beat a pretty good West Virginia team by a couple of touchdowns. They beat a top 25 Tulsa team. They beat Kansas State, beat Iowa State. Their resume is better than Texas, even though Texas is ranked ahead of them, and they did beat them head-to-head. But I don't understand that. If I'm an Oklahoma State fan, I am not happy with my ranking. Not that it really matters. But, yeah, very surprised to see Oklahoma State all the way down number 23. Auburn's right around where I had them. I think I had them maybe 23. And Marshall was close to where I had them at 7-0. I think a couple spots lower because I had a couple of Big Ten teams ranked lower than they actually were in Indiana and Wisconsin. But no real surprise there. So the only surprise when I really look at it The only thing that I would say that I disagree with here is Oklahoma State. How do you put them at 23 when you've got Iowa State and Texas up higher? Makes no sense. All right, 16 through 20, Coastal Carolina at number 20. Lower than I thought. I thought they might give them a little bit more credit, but obviously they don't view the Louisiana win as a good win. They don't view the App State win as a good win, or as good as I thought they would. And that surprised me all the way down at number 20. I actually had Coastal Carolina at number 12 because of those wins. But again, the committee just does not value those wins like I thought they would. And Coastal Carolina is all the way down at number 20. That's I think very disrespectful for this team that has beat some pretty good teams. North Carolina, a surprise. This is a team that I did not project to be ranked at all. They're 6-2, and they're coming in at number 19. So let's look at I wish I could show you. I wish I could pull all this up that I'm looking at as I talk about it, but that would just be too complicated. So you look at North Carolina. What have they done? Their best win is NC State, I guess. They beat Virginia Tech, who is now really struggling. They beat Boston College. You know, those are okay wins, but they're not great wins. And they lost to Florida State and Virginia, two teams that are not very good. I don't see how in the world you can put North Carolina in the top 25, especially at number 19. They barely beat Wake Forest, gave up 53 points in that game. Yeah, this one's a head scratcher. Don't understand it at all. They just don't have a quality win on the resume, and they've lost to bad teams. So it does not make any sense at all for me to see North Carolina ranked to really see North Carolina ranked at all. And I think North Carolina's a good team. You know, look at that offense. I think they've got a chance to beat Notre Dame, but just based off of their resume, I'm not really seeing it. Also, you've got USC at number 18. No surprise there. Again, they've only played 3 games, but how did you play in those 3 games? I had them, I believe, at number 20. So basically where I had them, Texas at 17 was a surprise. I thought they would be behind Oklahoma, or a little bit lower. Let's look at Texas. Let's talk about Texas and their resume. They've got the win over Oklahoma State. I think that's really big for them. That's a quality win. They beat West Virginia by 4. And Oklahoma State, that game went into overtime. And that's about it. They barely beat Texas Tech. They lost to Oklahoma. They were competitive in that game. It was a 4 overtime game. And then they lost to TCU by 2. They lost that game to a bad TCU team. Again, I don't understand this. I don't see how Texas is this high, and I don't see how Oklahoma State is that low. And it's just like, it's because they only lost by 2 points to TCU. I mean, if you look at it that way and say, well, they barely lost. Well, they barely beat Texas Tech. So I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. This is definitely something that is a head scratcher. It's almost like they look at that brand name of Texas and rank them higher. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Wisconsin at number 16. I felt like they deserved to be ranked, or at least based off how good they are, I thought they should be ranked pretty high, but just no resume. I didn't think that they would rank them this high. But I guess they're looking at that Northwestern game, and obviously Northwestern's a really good team. They had a chance to win it, and so I think that's why they put Wisconsin up here at number 16. 11 through 15, Oregon is at number 15. I had them at 14, so right about where I thought. BYU I had at 13. A lot of people said that was ridiculous. BYU is going to be ranked a lot higher. But if you look at what the committee has done in the past with a team like BYU, you can kind of see this one coming. In fact, I ranked them too high. I had them at 13. They were actually 14. So everyone that thought that I had BYU too low, I believe there was a comment that said, I forgot what it said, but I was disrespecting BYU or whatever. It's not about what I think anyways. I was just projecting what the committee is going to do, and I was pretty much correct. Now, this was another head scratcher. Iowa State all the way up at number 13. 13. This is not one that makes a lot of sense. It's almost like they're looking at how the teams are playing now. They're not looking at the entire season. I had Iowa State at 17, so I wasn't way off. But it's again, they're looking at how the teams are playing right now, and that's not what they've done in the past. They've looked at the entire season. This is a team that lost to Louisiana, who they do not have ranked. They lost 31-14 to Louisiana. They did beat Oklahoma. That was a quality win. And they lost to Oklahoma State by 3. It doesn't make any sense. The only thing I can see is, they look at how they just blew out Kansas State 45-0, but go back the week before, they barely beat Baylor 38-31. A Baylor team that has 1 win. So the Big 12, what they did in the Big 12 makes no sense to me. I can't comprehend it. It makes no sense. So yeah, unless they're just looking at how these teams are playing right now, maybe that's it. Indiana, number 12. Again, I thought they would look at the quality wins. How many do you have? No, they're just looking at the games that you've played. Indiana was impressive in their wins. They were close against Ohio State. I absolutely can see why, using that formula, you'd put this team at number 12. And then Oklahoma at number 11. I had them actually a little bit higher, and a lot of people thought they would not be ranked that high. Well, they weren't. I missed it a little bit. I had them at number 9, missed it by a couple of spots. But if you look at how close they were in those losses, that's what I said. They were very close to winning those games. They have some impressive wins now, and they're playing like one of the best teams in the country. So yeah, Oklahoma, I think, definitely deserves to be ranked up this high. And now let's go to 6 through 10. So Miami at number 10. They are 7-1. The only loss coming to Clemson. This is about where I had them. No surprise. Georgia at number 9. A lot of people said I was projecting Georgia too high. But if you go back, I actually had Georgia at 10. So I did not have them high enough. They actually come in at number 9, and it's because of the teams they lost to. They lost to 2 really good teams. They have a quality win over Auburn. Again, I think I was pretty accurate on everything but the Big 10 and the Big 12. I was pretty accurate on those 2 conferences. I don't know what the committee's doing. Well, I understand the Big 10. The Big 10, now that I see how they're viewing this, I think I can be a little bit more accurate in projecting the Big 10. But the Big 12 makes no sense. I don't know what they're thinking there. Northwestern at number 8. I believe that is right where I had them. Also Cincinnati at number 7, right where I had them. So I got both of those exactly right. And then we had 1 through 6 where I just didn't know what the committee was going to do. And again, when you look at how they're judging the Big 10, they're only looking at the games that they've played. They're not going, adding up the wins, the quality wins, or anything like that. And so that's why Ohio State, I think, is ahead of Texas A&M and Florida. I had A&M ahead of Florida because of the head-to-head. That's what the committee normally does. That's what they did. So Florida at 6, Texas A&M at number 5, Ohio State number 4. Obviously, when you look at Clemson, they're giving them credit, or the benefit of the doubt, I should say, because of the players they had out against Notre Dame, and that was still a really close game. I think you could say, if Clemson's ahead of Ohio State, then why is Texas A&M and Florida not ahead of Ohio State? Texas A&M has a quality win over Florida. That's better than anything Clemson has. And then Florida has the win over Georgia. And, they're looking like a really good team right now. So I guess the thing here is just that they're looking at Clemson, the fact that they did not have their full team, did not have Trevor Lawrence, and that's why they have the Tigers ahead of Ohio State. I get it. I understand it. And it was close for me with Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Florida. I still think that because Texas A&M and Florida have had a little bit more on their resume, I would still probably put them ahead of Ohio State. But what did I say in that video? I said if Indiana's a top 15 team, Ohio State will be ahead of these teams. I didn't think they would put Indiana that high just because they don't have the resume. But if you look again at how they played in the games that they have played, they've been impressive. So that's what the committee did. And it was no surprise at 1 and 2, Alabama, Notre Dame. I think we all saw that one coming. So there you go. The first rankings have been released. That's my takeaways from it. Again, I believe there were a lot of things I was very accurate predicting here. And then there were some things where I just missed the mark. I didn't know what they were going to do with the Big 10. And like I said, I still don't understand these Big 12 teams. It just makes no sense. Oklahoma is about where I thought they would be. But other than that, I mean, to me, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Texas are very close. I mean, those teams should be ranked pretty close when you look at how they played against each other, which Texas has not played Iowa State yet. But you look at common opponents, those 3 teams are very comparable, and they had them like all over the place. So we go back. They had Iowa State number 13. Then you go to 17 for Texas and 23 for Oklahoma State. I just don't understand it. So I would like to know maybe what the committee was thinking on the Big 12, because there just seems to be no consistency there. Other than that, now that I think we understand how they're going to view all the teams and the teams that have had different amounts of games, I think we now have a very clear picture of what certain teams are going to have to do to make it into the college football playoff. And we'll be talking about that really over the next week or so, where we start to look at some of these teams, their paths to the college football playoff. Because again, now we know that. Tomorrow I will do my new playoff predictions based off of, now that we have these rankings. I think I can make my predictions with a little bit more confidence. Also, New Year's Six will be doing that as well. So I've had BYU in my New Year's Six predictions based off of where they're ranked. I don't think BYU is going to make it into a New Year's Six bowl anymore. So that's a big change based off of what I thought a couple of weeks ago. Now that I see where they're ranked, it's going to be tough for them to get in. It's going to be very tough for them to get in, and that's a big story because they don't really have anything left. They had a chance to play Washington this week, declined to play that game, and I don't know if they're going to have another chance to schedule a Pac-12 team. If they don't, I don't see any way they're going to move up, and I think BYU will be left out of the New Year's Six, but I'm not surprised. Again, that's about where I had them projected to go. We will continue to follow this. Of course, next week I will do new projections and see if I can get it really accurate now that we know how the committee again is going to think. And of course, we'll do a reaction video as well. Thank you all for watching this. I'd love to know what you thought about it. What was your reaction to the first playoff rankings? What did you like? What did you not like? What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? And what were your takeaways from that? Thank you again, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.